Conversation right here is getting really tensed.
No, we just started. For those of you that are just joining in, today is the 10th of October. It's World Mental Health Day. And as it is, I will check out the theme for this year. But, you know, it's all about more and more often in the noughties up until the 2010s, even up until now, the importance of mental health cannot be overemphasized. We've been talking about it and all of that. Back then, we would suffer a number of abuse and just let it go that we're being trained to be strong and all of that. But these days, as much as mental health is important, there is also the talk about children being raised weakly. That's for another discussion and all of that. Like I remember, like I mentioned, that excerpt I saw from a Piers Morgan interview where he spoke about it. But that aside, you know, this morning we're talking about, earlier on, we're talking about the price of fuel and how it would...
Coincidentally, the theme for this month, for this year is mental health at work.
Okay.
Yeah, emphasizing the importance of the safe, healthy working environment for, you know, employers, for employees, right?
Okay, so let's start with that.
Basically also supporting the mental well-being.
Let's start with that.
You know.
I think all looking at ensuring that the work is a safe place. Now, let me start from experiences of people I know and myself, where people will come to work and, you know, a lot of your mental health and the place at work depends on maybe your boss, your supervisor, or your line manager. How conducive is the environment to work with? How healthy is the relationship with your co-workers? You don't have to be friends, yes. You are colleagues, but you have, and you should and can be civil. But there are times when a work environment pits employees against each other, especially in areas where you are competing, say marketing or somewhere you are competing for, you know, you're trying to put a top price. And so because they're pitted against each other, targets. And all of that, everybody's trying to hit the other person down to get higher and all of that. So environments like that can be toxic. You know? So I wanted to start from there.
Even besides marketing, there's also the issue of the employee relations. Like, how do you even speak to your employees? Do you speak to them in an empathetic way or in a condescending way? That's a question. Because I remember seeing a post of someone saying that words by our classmates shattered our self-esteem.
Oh, yes, yes.
Some things that people say, you don't know how deep. And you know something, when I was actually seeing that, when I saw the headlines, because I couldn't listen to it, I actually took a pause myself because I've always been the type who just says things as it is and then I just move on.
Oh, filter.
And so, oh, please. And so it made me wonder. I remember a friend of mine, she was pregnant here. And she was not optimal. And this is somebody I know that when she's gisting, as heavily pregnant she is, when she's, you know, flunking work, she's very excited. But when it's time to do the work, she would, like, start acting like, oh, she's about to die. And I recall telling her that, come on, pick up yourself. What's the meaning of this? When she had her baby, she told me that statement I made really hurt her because the day I said it, she was actually not in a good way. But then I said something to her. I said, just before you went into that phase that day, I saw you gisting excitedly. When it was time to work was when you did this. And then she was trying to explain to me that, okay. And then, of course, we understand that pregnancy mood swings and all come up. But then that statement, as me just saying to you that, come on, pick yourself up. It really hurt her. And so at some point, one needs to also examine the things they say and how they say it. Sometimes your honest views might actually do a lot of damage to the person.
Yeah, but then again, let's see that from another perspective because we cannot keep walking around eggshells around each other. There are times that, you know, some honest reviews or views or feedbacks need to be had or needs to be said. But then it is also in the communication and in the approach. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in. I know we had conversations around emotional intelligence last week. That's where it comes in. It is in the diplomacy that you know
trust me when I'm saying
the conversation.
I
know, but then again I'm also
hurts,
but then I'm also still piggybacking on that is when she communicated that to you about how she felt, how did you respond
No, of course,
to it?
at that
Some people could have been aggressive, say, but you were not, this minute you were working, this minute you were excited, this minute you were not, when it was time for you to work. They could have, approached it aggressively. But the approach which the way you responded to it, which was, and then you guys had a civil conversation about it. Oh, it was not
let's
civil.
not go there.
Oh, okay.
but
ideally, it should have been. Yeah, ideally, it should have been. And then you could have apologized, and then you get it over. You get it over with, and that's been sorted. So I think it's also in the approach as well. How do we communicate with our colleagues? How often do we even check on our colleagues?
You know something?
Checking on our colleagues.
How often do we check on our colleagues? How often do you look? Mike, how are you doing?
That was not the best response.
You're fake asking. It's even affecting the mental health more from checking it. Now, when I'm looking at, something here, there is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that is what you have to understand. When I listen to motivational speakers and everybody, one thing in the few years I've had to experience life is that there is no one size fits all. When you come up with a template and you come to a company or something and you're talking and this is how it should be done, that. No. People are trained that in different situations there will be different ways you would have to respond.
Yes.
But you have to understand that the work environment, it's not your blood family.
Yeah.
The way your mother and your sister will talk to you and say, how are you?
Yep.
It's not the way your boss is going to talk to you and say, how are you? He has expectations. That's what we're talking about. Remember when I mentioned the Piers Morgan thing? You are competing. And let's look at professional sports. That's easy. That's an easy place to lay all of this out. You are in an environment, I know, for lack of some other things, many motivational speakers have spoken about it, you are going up against sharks. It's a competitive world.
It's a dog world.
Exactly. And so for that, if I am going up, I remember telling somebody something that, people are talking about, you're competing with yourself. There was this competition I won. I went to the brand manager to talk about something. Do you know what? I entered his office. Or we were like a group, we entered his office, and immediately we just strolled him. He was facing his door. We don't see what was back. So we're talking to him. When we finished, I turned to take a little distance and go out. I saw their #1 competition. Let me just, I will not mention, but it was a drink. It was just only there in front of him. And he was
That
just sitting
was
back.
his
Do you understand?
focus.
I was looking at it. Those guys were doing better.
So every time he thinks he's doing great, he reminds himself.
He just comes back and sits down
yeah.
and understand. And in that kind of scenario, that's why I said, look, you mix and match. In that kind of scenario, you want generals to go with you to war. Because, look, we've seen clearly, this particular brand that was, at one point in time, this brand had 80% of market share for smartphones. You know the brand.
Yes.
You know the brand.
Yes.
Nokia. They were there.
Yeah.
Today, where are they? Where are people that were employed there? What I'm saying is that for mental health in the workplace, there is a balance that needs to be struck.
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, I've never been able to understand slacking off work. I've never. Because I've always believed that whatever pays your bills, you need to give it your best, no matter how little it is. While you're in that space, while you have that time to get your job done, give it your best shot. You can be mad at your employer. You can detest most of the things they do. But when it's time for you to work, do what you have to do and get out of
And to wrap it up, I'm just going to add that we should begin to inculcate the excellent mindsets, in our, approach to work, because it helps, to build an efficient and efficient working environments.
Yeah. And then this issue of empathy, employers should also understand that when somebody is paying 5,000 naira for transportation to the office, and then you are now telling the person that you cannot close at 5 because I have extra work for you. 5 is even late, but I have extra work for you, and you are not considering certain things. That's lack of empathy. Let's just keep those things in mind.
Oh, God.
We'll take a time out now. Let us know in the comments, so we'll be back after this time out.
Mary.